my name's Cathryn Nolan and I will be your facilitator, your lecturer, your visiting professor, your pain in the backside for this subject. So welcome to Design Thinking for Business, and for many of you, welcome to your MBA adventure. Congratulations, it's a big step and one that I'm sure you will be very pleased that you took. So the purpose of this video, which I hope won't take too long, is to basically give you an introduction to this subject. Not so much the content, we'll talk about that when we get going, and you've got quite a bit of reading to do before we get started, but to what my expectations are, how the subject is going to work, and what it is that I'm going to need you to do. So before we get too far, I've got some tips and tricks about how to succeed in this and pretty much any of your MBA subjects. And there's a bit of a theme to this. It's all about participation. The first and most important thing that you can do is interact with other students. You can start that now by starting to talk to people on the discussion boards, seeing if there's anybody you already know, seeing if you can chat to people through the email system, get to know who each other are or what things you've got in common, and ideally where you're going to differ from each other, because that's how you learn. The more actively you engage with other students, the more likely you are to succeed, and there's plenty of research that backs that up. The single common factor for the most successful university students is how well their friends do. So find yourself some other people who are likely to want to achieve as much as you want to achieve, work with them, and you will be golden. Another really important thing is to make sure you are prepared, not only for classes, but for your group meetings as well. In almost every MBA class you do, if not all of them, you are going to have to work with other people. We talk about CLNs, or collaborative learning networks. Sometimes you'll get to choose who's in your CLN. Other times you're just going to get allocated. This is one of those other times. I am going to purposefully put together groups that are as diverse and as different from each other as I possibly can. And the reason for that is, well, we'll talk about it in design thinking, but that's one of the best ways to learn and to get the most creative outcomes. So every meeting that you go to in life, I would say, but particularly my classes and your CLN network meetings, you should be as prepared as you can possibly be. Sorry, just looking for something that dropped on the floor there. How you do that for this class is you're going to get yourself familiar with Canvas. One of the best ways to do that is to look at some of the videos and the announcements. Start with the module, start at the beginning, set yourself up for success, and then module 1 really gets you into the content of this course. And right at the very end of module 1, you will find that there is some information about the various assignment tasks. Sorry, not the various ones, the first assignment task, and some tips and tricks for really doing brilliantly in that. Next, research. Now, you're a master's student now, so not everything is going to be given to you. You're going to have to get comfortable with using the library, but you're also going to need to get comfortable with using the world. Getting out, observing, talking to people, seeing how the things you learn apply in practice. Using the skills that you gain in my class and others to solve problems. Think about the class materials and how they apply to general current affairs that you learn about, to things that you see in the places that you work or in your own community and with your families, your friends, etc. Talk to people, use the tools in real life. And then the last one is attend class. Now, the reality is with an intensive class, that's rarely a problem, but I am going to point it out because it is important. I'm going to expect you to show up on time and to be present. Attending class is more than showing up in the room. It's showing up with your full self, putting your phone in your bag, switching it off unless you absolutely need it for the class, and really engaging, thinking with the materials. Get involved, focus, engage. That's how you learn. Now, this is not just me saying these things. There is research going back to 1933 undertaken by, I assume, Professor Dewey, who's responsible for that analog Wikipedia, the Dewey Decimal System, or the way that people found books in libraries before the internet. Most of his research related actually to retention and memory, and I'm using that as a proxy for learning here. But effectively what I want to show you is the more engaged you are, the more likely you are to learn or retain information. So I find it quite funny that those of you who just sit and listen to me and what's going on will probably retain about 5%. But me, because I'm there in the lecture theatre doing what I need to do, chances are I'm going to retain and learn 90%. And it's a sliding scale. One of the reasons that I spend time making my lecture slides colourful, including animations, colour, movement, one of the reasons why I plan games for us to play, which might feel a bit silly now that you're a grown-up master's student, or the way that I use interactive materials in a classroom, is all because this research has convinced me that you will learn more and that you will be able to activate more of your thinking if you're actively engaged in what's going on around you. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about in this video is assessment tasks. Now, frankly, I'm not interested in the assessment tasks yet. I want you to learn something before I try and assess it, but I know that you are. My experience tells me that all students want to find out what it is that they're going to have to do and what's going to be on the test so that they can plan out their semester. Now, this is a little bit tricky with this particular subject for reasons I will not bore you with. The order that you need to submit assignments in is not the same as the numbers that are given to those assignments. So the very first task that you need to complete is actually task 2.1, and that's a pre-intensive submission. Yep, that's right. You have to do work for assessment. It's only 5% overall, but you need to do work for your assessment before you even come to class. Now, how do you do that? Firstly, Module 1, work your way through that, and towards the bottom of it you will find a group of pages in Canvas. So by the way, Canvas is our learning management system, which is university speak for the website that we use to deliver learning materials to you. And modules are basically just, the modules page is like a big table of contents. The modules will click open. There is a module 1, which includes everything that you need to get ready. It's quite long because there's a lot of reading, because we have a 4-day intensive and I need you to be prepared before you even come to class. That module has a lot of information in it. Now, don't worry if you don't understand everything that you read. That's what the classes are for. But again, the research I just told you about a minute ago shows me that the more actively you engage with the materials, the more likely you are to learn something. So you have a pre-assessment task which will force you to do that reading, or at least some of it, and to really practice using some of the design thinking tools that we're going to get really familiar with over the course of the intensive and the rest of the subject. Now, it's not worth a lot of marks. The marks are pretty easy to get. What you will need to do is do each of the little tasks, and then you need to bring a printed out version of it, or if you've just hand drawn them on pieces of paper, which is fine too, by the way, you've got to bring those pieces of paper with you, and you need to upload either a photograph of your hand drawn material or your PowerPoint presentation or your Word document or whatever it is into Canvas so that I can give you some feedback. At the end of the day, you'll get another chance, because this assignment 2.1 is actually part of a larger reflective portfolio of work that you need to do. You will get another chance to fix it, tweak it if you want to get as many marks as you possibly can. But if you don't get it up and loaded before our class starts on the first day of the intensive, then you will start to be penalised for marks. So basically, when you look in the assignments area of Canvas, you will find a separate tab or a separate page for each of the assignment tasks. Assignment 2.1 might look a bit overwhelming. The instructions are set out in quite a lot of detail because I can't be there to explain it to you in person, but you work through that and you have a go at doing those tasks and you should be golden. The next thing that you will have to deliver is assignment 3.1. So that's the first part of your group assignment. So the group assignment, which is ultimately worth 50% of your mark, it involves a live case study, working with an industry partner to to really define clearly and solve a problem that they're dealing with using design thinking. There are 2 deliverables for the group task. The first of them we will do on the final day of the intensive. Now, you'll be doing a lot of work over the course of the intensive to really get a solid understanding of what it is that you need to do. We'll do it step by step together, and then at the end of that you will pull it together and you will deliver an in-class presentation to the whole of the group, and that will count for 20% of the overall group mark. A few weeks after that, you will then deliver the second part of the group assignment. That will be a report. The report will really mirror the work that you did in class, will really give bones and structure to the overview presentation that you've given, but it'll also take into account the feedback that you've got to stretch and really make the group work. So you're going to still have to continue working with your collaborative learning network, your CLN, after the intensive finishes. A few weeks after that, actually only 1 week after that, you will deliver the second part of your annotated portfolio of work. Now, I'll make a separate video about that, and we'll also discuss it in class, because that is an assignment task that's quite likely to be very different from anything you've done before. But it really is quite simple. What I'm asking you to do along the way is to gather evidence of the work that you do and the different tools that you use. Some of them you'll do in class, some of them you'll do with other people, some of them you will do yourself. And then you're going to annotate and reflect on those tasks, and you're going to share your learnings with me at the end. Now, you get a little bit of a practice at the reflection in the first part. And so the very last of the tools, you're asked to reflect on what you learnt. And so it's only very tiny, but it'll give me an opportunity to give you some feedback on your reflection skills. And all of that together will help you take more away from this subject. Then finally, right towards the end of the semester, and I give it a little heart there because I know how happy you'll be when it's done, you're going to deliver your final individual assessment piece. That's a journal article that you're going to write about design thinking. You're going to draw on the literature, your own experience in the classroom and with your project, and you're going to try and consider how design thinking might apply to a problem, a business, a situation, a context that you're familiar with and passionate about. I think you're going to have a lot of fun doing that. Oh, you're not going to have fun doing it. That's silly. You won't have fun doing it, but you're going to feel really pleased with yourself when it's done. You're going to take a lot away from you. And I can say that because this is not the first time I've taught this class, and I've seen so many people, and that's the joy in it for me, seen so many people really fall in love with a new way of thinking and drawing upon their creativity. And I really can't wait to share that with you as well. Just to finish up, there's a couple of admin expectations. I'm going to talk about these again on our first day together, but I wanted to bring them to your attention now so that we can share them and that you can add to them or argue with me if you think you need to. We're going to start and we're going to finish our classes on time. I am going to start on the dot of 8 o'clock, whether you're all in the room or not. I hope you are in the room because I think it's really important to be there, to be present and to be engaged and to really be mindful about what's going on around you. But if it turns out that you're late, and I've spent a lot of time in Saigon, I understand how traffic in Ho Chi Minh can be. So if it turns out that you're running late, don't fuss, don't make a fuss, don't make a noise, just basically get into the room as quickly as you can, find a spot to sit down, be as far from disruptive as you can be, talk to somebody during the break so that you can catch up, but don't expect me to keep stopping and starting and going back. I will work very hard to stop us right at the end of the day, and that means I might cut conversations short to make sure that we get through as much as we possibly can. So that's why I say trust me if I defer your questions. We will have very seminar style classes. I won't be just standing at the podium lecturing to you, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm going to be walking around. You're going to be doing things. You're going to be active. And I want you to be asking me questions. I want you to be challenging ideas. I want you to expect me to be tricking you, to be asking you questions that don't have the right answers, or challenging your approach just to really get you to think hard about what you're doing. But if the conversation gets too out of hand, you need to trust me if I wind it up, because we've got a lot to get through and we need to finish on time. Secondly, it might be that I'm going to come back to that, or I have a plan to come back to your issue later. Participate, participate, participate. You saw the slides earlier. You know already that participation is a big thing. But I do want to point out that I understand that people participate in different ways. Some people are loud and noisy and chatty and outgoing like I am. Other people are introverted. They like to stop. They like to think. They don't like to be put on the spot. Just because somebody in your CLN isn't saying something doesn't mean they're not participating. But it is up to you to make sure that you participate in your way by being mindful and present. Lastly on this list, I want people to feel very open when they're talking. Now, occasionally we will record segments. For example, I will record your presentations so that I get a chance to go and double check things, because it can be absolute chaos trying to really mindfully assess so many presentations on one day. But basically, the way that the Chatham House rules, which many of your classes at RMIT will run under, is that you can tell other people what you learned in a class, but you should not attribute something to someone unless they've agreed that you can do that. And so if somebody tells you a personal story or shares with us all a personal story about their workplace or something that's happened to them that is relevant to the course, then you must maintain their confidence. Should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, you need to do the preparation. There is a lot of reading that's available to you. Most of it is actually pretty easy to read. There are lots of pictures and diagrams in design thinking books. There's the required reading, which is made quite clear, but there's also many links and opportunities to expand your knowledge, many additional readings for those of you who want to learn a little bit more about a topic, or might be stuck and need a little bit more information, or it just might be relevant to the particular problem that you're working on. But you need to do at least the pre-reading before you attend. I've gone to a lot of effort to make sure all of the materials are available online, so you don't need to buy any texts, but you will be able to access the documents without too much trouble. Expectations of me as well. If you send me an email, whether that's through Canvas or in the traditional way, I will do my utmost to get back to you within 48 hours. If you're worried or stressed, try and contact me a quicker way. I rarely take 48 hours, to be frank, other than perhaps weekends, but I do travel a lot, and I get a lot of emails, so more often than I would like, things get lost. My telephone number is available. I'm on Viber, I'm on WhatsApp, I'm on plain old ordinary telephone, only the telephone number doesn't work when I'm in Vietnam. I'll have a Vietnam number when I'm there. Send me a text message and I will call you. Try and set up a time so we can have a Zoom or a conference meeting. I use video conference like Skype all the time. Let's talk to each other. The more anxious you are, use a more immediate form of communication to try and get hold of me. Speaking of getting hold of people and telephones, I don't want to see or hear your phone in class. If you absolutely have to take a call because there's an emergency, leave the room, take the call, come back, don't make a fuss. It's great if you have your phones with you because we will use them in class for different activities. Actually, this point just here, I know some of you will need to make calls. That happens. again, don't make a fuss. You don't need to ask my permission. I just need you to get up, walk out quietly, get it done. Try not to distract yourself or anybody else. Computers. I don't think they're great for note-taking personally. Again, there's plenty of science that says you will remember more if you draw, scribble, handwrite. But if you want to take notes with them, that's fine. I just don't want to see Facebook. I don't want to see email. I don't want to see Alibaba, eBay, whatever it is that you're spending your time on. I just want to see you taking notes and working on your assignments. There are computers at RMIT that groups can use for putting assignments and presentation materials together. So if you don't have a computer or you don't want to bring one, that's awesome. Don't worry about it. I will share the slides that I prepare with you at the end of the day. I reserve my right to change the order, to mess things around, to let the conversation take its course. And I have some surprises in there, and I don't really want you flicking forward and finding the answer. So they are the key things that I want to talk with you about today. Oh, by the way, some social media there if you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram. By the way, I tend to tweet and Instagram pictures of me working in classrooms from time to time. If you have a problem with that, please let me know and I'll make sure not to include you in any photos. And yeah, basically from that point onwards, that's the one thing I wanted to talk about. This is our rough structure for the classroom. It's not going to be here long enough for you to know. What's important we've already spoken about. You're going to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning. But what's also important to know is that on the first, second and third day, you're going to have CLN work to do. Do not assume that you can finish at 5 and just go home. Every day you are going to have to work with the new team of wonderful humans who you'll be introduced to, because intensives are intense, and at the end of the intensive you're going to have to deliver the substantive product, your group report, as a presentation. Anyway, I hope that's answered some initial questions that you might have had about this course and how to succeed into it. I cannot wait to start working with you in person. You'll see lots of little videos of me between now and then, and not all of which I've made yet. I'm yet to make one about the reflective portfolio, the annotated portfolio assignment. But I'm much more looking forward to being able to see your faces when we're working together. So take care until then, and we'll be in touch, hey? Cheers.